All right, hello, wine-drinking people. We are back, finishing up with what I had to drink last week. This is the best way to get me to come over to your house for dinner. Just let me know you're opening up wines like this, and it's hard for me to resist. Saturday nights, I'm usually available, folks, in case you need someone to help you take down 82 Leovile Las Cases, 83 Chateau D'Yquem, or 82 Krug. I had a Magnum, vintage Krug, one of my favorite things in the world. I don't know if I've even told my vintage Krug story about how I went out and spent about $1,500 on vintage Krug one night after I found out I'd won this lawsuit, which I still haven't collected one dime from this lawsuit. But that's where I learned, 90% of judgments in Florida never get paid. But it's still fun to party like a rock star every once in a while. And I was partying like a rock star on Saturday night. The 82 Vintage Krug. Andy and Judy, thank you very much. A fabulous meal in your house. Well, Andy cooked it. Man, the first dish with a crab, absolutely fantastic. Kind of like a deconstructed crab cake with a little cilantro pesto and red pepper puree. Really, a lot of flavor. Worked beautifully with the 82 Krug out of Magnum. And vintage Krug, to me, one of the most unique beasts, because they age this wine in barrique. And then, once you keep it on tirage, the Magnum gives it a little more contact with the dead yeast cells, the lees, and makes it even richer for me. This wine had this lovely brioche kind of toasty note, hazelnut on the nose, really complex. And as it sat in the glass, it even got, and warmed up a little bit. It even got better. It still had this lovely fruit to it, quince, apricots, and just an endless finish. The bubbles in older champagne, a lot less, but still had this lovely creaminess to the palate, and just a fantastic wine. Could have been the wine of the night for me, but so many great wines on the table, man. How do you pick a wine of the night at a dinner like this? 1981 Le Mission Aubryon, 81's a vintage. Most people would say, you kidding me? I'm not coming over for dinner for 81s. But the Le Mission, always a great wine, and the 81, surprisingly good, scarily good, better than the 83 Cos D'Estournel. Those wines were served side by side, and I always have loved Cos D'Estournel. And, the 83 vintage, also somewhat overlooked. It was right after 82, which got so much press, but there were a lot of nice 83s, and now they're drinking at their peak. And this wine had this lovely kind of minerality to it, and nice red currant berry fruit, some cigar box spice. Both of these wines, to me, showing at or near their peak. But the Le Mission just had a little bit more concentration, a little bit more fruit, and a little longer finish. So for me, that one won in that flight. And then next up, we had the 1982 Leovile Las Cases, a wine we're going to be opening this Friday night here at the store at our Leovile Las Cases event. This wine, it's been magical every time that I've had it. Still this 82 vintage has this lovely, vibrant fruit to it, currants, cassis berry fruit, and this wonderful acidity. Lovely, and it still has tannins to this wine. This wine could still go another 20 or 30 years. Well, we had with that a much younger wine, the 2000 Marjolla, which Margaux, has pretty much been a two-horse town for many years. Chateau Palmer, Chateau Margaux. And, of course, you have a few other people that made good wines, but, nothing that you would put next to those two wines. Marjolla really started coming on strong. Well, they're a new winery as of the late 90s. And fabulous stuff. The 2000 vintage, even though there's a little bit of sediment in there, Jim, assured me that was because of Andy's decanting methods. But to me, it shouldn't be that much sediment in a wine that's even a Merlot-based wine just from 2000, but had this lovely dark cherry fruit to it, and this lovely spice, kind of an incense note, and really drinking nicely, but still has some time ahead of it, just like that 82 Leovile Las Cases. My wine that I brought, well, I love Burgundy. I mean, even though I love Bordeaux, I knew these guys were going to be bringing a lot of Bordeaux. I brought the 2003 Clos de Tart, and believe it or not, we had the Bordeaux first, and then the Burgundy, and this wine's 15% alcohol, still very young, and went perfectly with the cheese course. Oh, I forgot to mention the veal chop that Andy did, man. Perfectly cooked. What an amazing piece of meat. Won't find anything nicer, even at a Cafe Max-like restaurant. Simple, and that's what you want, and cooked to perfection. That's what you want with great wines. You don't want the food to compete with the wine. The Clos de Tart was an absolute stunner, still very young, and at 15% alcohol, this wine had liqueur-like, cherry fruit to it, but still had lovely freshness on the finish, and you could tell still lovely acidity there as well. This wine's got a long ways to go, and as I mentioned before, it worked after the Bordeaux because of the 2003 vintage. Normally, you'd serve Burgundy first. All right, and then for dessert, you can tell this isn't 83 because it doesn't have that dark caramel color to it, but Chateau D'Yquem 83, a legendary vintage for Sauternes. This wine, these guys served it a little cold, and to me, I like Sauternes almost at room temperature, especially great ones like this, because the nuance in the nose, that burnt orange, that lovely caramelly, honeyed, apricot nuance that you get really is pronounced much more when the wine warms up. And, we had dessert first, which was absolutely fabulous. This blueberry tart, and, Andy mentioned he didn't want to compete with dessert with the wine, so we served the wine afterwards. A brilliant choice. Fabulous stuff. Thank you very much for inviting me over, Andy, Judy, and the rest of the crowd that were there, and some fabulous wines, some great friends, and some great food. All right, well, that's what I had to drink this weekend, folks. I'm your host, Andrew Lampasone, signing off for the Wine Watch, saying remember, always drink the good stuff first.